Hi, welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We are committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right, then, let's head into today's conversation. Welcome to today's conversation, another recorded session, and we are following on our series about the various decades. We started with the 20s. We are continuing we did the 30s last week, and we are continuing with the 40s this week. And feel free to check. I encourage you to check on YouTube and on our podcast. We have these sessions, the 20s and the 30s there. So if you've missed anything in the past, please get on and listen to the stuff we talked about. Very good advice in there. So for this topic, some of us have not been there before. Last week I took the sideline asking more questions than giving opinions, because Mimi, David, and Paulina have been there. Me, I've not been there yet. So today we wanted to, Mimi and I are not qualified for this one also. So we wanted to tap into the expertise of people who have been there and experienced the 40s. So we have David, our elder, the group Money Convos elder, and we have Niam Passoa, the head of Databank Asset Management Services Limited. And he's also my boss. He's a very cool guy though. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation with him. David, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited a little bit. I heard you mention Niam Passoa and his titles, and my ears are just all buzzing right now. I feel like I need his personal phone number after this is done.
Oh, sure. He will sort that out for you. Oh, and by way of introduction, so David is a securities regulator with FINRA in the US. So you can see that we are trying to assemble some big men here to join you, another big man, so that the stage won't fall on one side. We are trying to balance the whole stage.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, Mimi, do you have any opening salvo before we get into the details?
Welcome everybody to today's session. Honestly, I'm very excited about today's session because the first session I had something to say. Second session I had something to say, but today I have no experience at all. So I'm pumped up. I want to hear what those who have experienced that stage of life have to say, so that we prepare ourselves for whatever is ahead. So, yeah, Elikim.
Today we are all part of the audience, the backbenchers, and we'll let David and Paa Nii lead the stage. I invited some other people, so some more people would join in the conversation in a bit. But to everyone in the audience, welcome again. Shout out to Douglas. I see Douglas, the very amazing guy. And feel free to ask any questions that are pressing. I'll be expecting a few from Kofi. Very good questions Kofi asks. So looking forward to that. And at this juncture, if we were all in a room, I would ask that we rise and give a standing ovation to our long lost member, Jennifer. Welcome on stage. It's been many weeks. And if I say something, should I check your voice to make sure you're fine?
Hi everybody, good evening. Please, I'm doing very well, and you too.
Yay! Jennifer's back.
It's been forever.
Yes. Jennifer fell ill just about the same time I fell ill, but unfortunately she didn't recover as fast. I'm glad Jennifer is back. I did the introduction for Nii earlier on. If you were here, you are official greeter, you'd have done that. But anyway, we'll reserve that for later. So the topic we are talking about, the 40s. So let's jump into it. David, let's start. We've been looking at a trend. 20s, 30s, and last week you said that the 30s were not it's not that much different from the 20s. It's just more pressure. So tell me, what's the key difference between the the 30s and the 40s as you've transitioned there and you've been living that life?
So for me, I feel like if you've done all the right things in the 20s and the 30s, entering your 40s, things to me things begin to kind of fall in place. It's not necessarily a time where you get to coast, but it's, of course, the pressures are there. Some of it intensifies, but others too, like right now, if you're a late bloomer like me, you probably are dealing with young kids, and you know you're juggling, having to sort them out schooling wise, having to set something up for uh, you know college expenses and all that, and then also having to acquire or amass some properties and stuff, and establishing some kind of wealth that you can pass on, um, with the this is also the time when most of the parents are now getting very, very old, and some may need, you know, help with stuff. My dad, for instance, Oyakokra, old man, and you know, it's a struggle trying to get him to relinquish, you know, um, control over certain things of his certain aspects of his life, and then the kids, coming in to say, okay, maybe you shouldn't be driving anymore, maybe we should do this, and then depending on how stubborn the parent is, you get a lot of pushback. Um, if you're married, of course, you're dealing with that on your side. You might also be dealing with it a bit on your wife's side with the in-laws and all that stuff. Yeah, so things that we dealt with in the 20s and 30s, now it's very, very real. You are probably like the Ebusapini, or you're like the go-to person because maybe you're the elder statesman of the family, and now BBS, yeah. Oh, let's go talk to, the oldest son or the oldest daughter, or sometimes the one that's perceived to have the means. So yeah, it's it gets interesting from here. But like I said, if you put the right things in place in the 20s and the 30s, at this time, it doesn't really get that much easy, but it gets a little bit, a little bit easier. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I get the sense that the pressure is not as much or as intense, or the nature of the pressure is not as intense as the 30s, as you described it yesterday. Like if someone were playing the two tapes side by side, the person would sense your relaxation in talking about the 40s. However, now it sounds like the responsibility is of a higher nature. I like the word you use, elders, the phrase you use, elder statesman. That's a good one. Ebusuapeni. Yeah, I see it. And then we've even seen it on, say, your Facebook and your IG, giving people off in marriage and all that. So yeah.
Yo, when I had to do that, it made me feel like, oh my God, am I that old now that I'm the person standing in for somebody's father in their marriage? Like, wow, when you're young, right? When you're in your teens, you see an older brother or sister who's like 21, and you think, oh my God, you're so old. And then very soon you get to be that 21-year-old person. And then before like me now that I'm in my 40s, in my head, I don't think I'm old. I call myself a very big kid. But then when you're being called upon to, give, because I've been married for a little bit, give people marriage advice, or, you know, go give somebody advice on life, or, go stand in for somebody's father because the father is in Ghana or wherever. It makes you realize that, oh, Charlie, listen, we're getting old. Let's start acting accordingly. It's not the days where you're 18 anymore. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it sure is interesting. That's great. Paa Nii, how about you? The transition from 30s to 40s, what was the difference? What were a few key differences between the two? Oh, and I remember that your birthday in the office, the 40th birthday. I remember that day. Was that the day we ate there, too? Or that was a different birthday?
My memory is failing me now.
Yeah, you always have fun parties for your
I think
birthday, so
probably
we can't separate
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to a number of the things that David said. The thing about 40, I mean, it creeps up on you and then suddenly hits you. And the programs you then get invited to, you realize are of a certain nature. Your weekend obligations tend to change to either weddings or funerals or both. I mean, as far as my parents are concerned, fortunately, they are both quite able-bodied and strong. So I've elected to, I guess, remain around in the country because I mean my siblings are out, but I feel the need to keep checking on them, being the eldest, and so on and so forth. There is a greater burden in terms of responsibility. There's no question about that. I feel that most, I guess, at home, I have 3 young children, so trying to bring them up, being present amidst a very challenging work schedule is quite difficult. And being there for any challenges that my wife may be also going through, that also is a bit of a challenge. So work and family life balance is probably, I mean, among the greatest challenges that I face. I think this period of remote working has somewhat helped in some aspects. I've gotten to know my kids more and gotten to know or be a bit more human, have that a bit more of that human touch. But at the same time, in that challenge, from a work perspective, because you're not seeing people, there's a greater burden on you to move beyond just the task and work-oriented schedule, but to consciously ask your colleagues how they are doing, trying. I mean, for those that would allow you into their personal lives, ask about what they are going through, and try and get be empathetic and sensitive to their needs. I would say, I mean, that's among what my experience has been.
That's interesting. It's helped you to become more human, just to pick on that word you used, and being more relatable. And I guess the remote working has really added a different that new twist to it. And I guess in that case, if you had your own way, or which one would you say is the ideal? Managing the family work-life balance while you're at home versus doing that while having to go to the office for an 8 to 5. Which one would you prefer?
I would elect for the 8 to 5 if I can control my time and try and make it back home in time to relate to family life. But that said, the sweet spot for me would be a blend, and so in the very early days of lockdown, for instance, I would choose to go into the office maybe 2 or 3 times a week and spend the rest of the time working from home. I would say I added 1 or 2 responsibilities in terms of the dropping off and picking up of children to and from school. So that also helps in the bonding process.
Yeah, it's good. You know, the people, not the jury's still out on work from home or get back to work. So it's good to hear your perspective. And I like how you said you'd make up for it with your family later. That's great. So to anyone who's just joined the conversation, we are having a conversation on conquering the challenges of your 40s. We started the series this month with talking about the 20s, life in the 20s, getting out of school, finding a job, managing what little salary you get, then move to the 30s where there's more and more pressure, marriage pressure, family pressure, a whole lot more pressure. And now we are looking at the 40s. And so far we've heard that it comes with more responsibilities, So David has given people how we are in marriage, and it's woke him up to realize that he's growing up, So Paa Nii has mentioned the work and family life balance, So these are some of the issues that are coming up. So soon we are going to ask more specific questions and delve into the unique challenges and then the solutions to them. So feel free to join in on the conversation if you are in the audience. And I see a long lost member of the audience, Nate. Nice to see you in here. So Nate and Martin, yes, Nate and Martin, and Danielle. So Danielle is a regular, but Nate and Martin have been throughout for a while. So please feel free to raise your hand and join in on the conversation as and when you want to. So my fellows on the stage, Mimi, Jennifer, Paulina. Oh, well, yes, welcome, Paulina. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask specifically before I head into the questions I have? Jennifer.
Thank you. But I think you almost said Martin when you were saying it the second time.
Yeah,
when
trying to slur and all that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I really understand what Paa Nii and David spoke about, and I just want to say something. When I was a kid, I used to think that when I went to children's service, and they used to say that kids will have a very better time going to heaven because we don't really know heaven or hell, like good or bad. We don't have that. We haven't been set in stone with our attitudes and our habits. I used to be very happy because I was like, oh, I'm still a kid and my parents are parents. They grew up as they are parents. I'll never grow up. But now that I'm growing up and I'm realizing that I also become like that, let's say 40s or things, and then it's dawning on me that all the problems that I saw them going through, and I'll be like, oh, this will never be my portion. Like it's creeping up on me. They're having to battle what Paa Nii is talking about, your family life, working life, all of that, and then making sure that you are still excelling in every aspect. Is starting to creep up, and we realize that as I am not even in my 30s, this is a good opportunity for me to pick up their brains and then talk about these things in depth. So thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, and this is my opening remarks. Thank you.
That's
welcome,
great.
Jennifer. Welcome.
Thank you,
We've missed your
Paulina.
voice.
Yes, and don't get sick again, so that we keep hearing your voice. Yes, we are being selfish, not about you, it's about us hearing your voice.
I know.
Yes. All right, so you thought you could just lazy in the couch. These on social media, every now and then you see a baby sitting lying in a sofa, cross their legs with even with a pacifier and a bottle in a mouth, holding the remote some funny way, or relaxing in a pool or a bathtub, and you go like, look at this unemployed person, just sitting there not paying any bills. Thought you could be like that forever, huh?
Yes, and you change the channel and they're crying. Yeah, I thought I could be like that forever.
Good one. Okay, so let's see. Any other comments? Paulina, Mimi?
I'd like to hear from Paulina.
Come to think of it, so I didn't want to assume. I was playing back the 30s conversation and, the banter between Paulina and I about her age, and I was doing the math. So, Paulina, have you crossed to the 40s?
Stop the math. I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay,
but
okay.
I think that I agree with David and Paa Nii that it creeps up on you really. Like one day you are 20, one day you are in your 20s, the next you are in your 30s, and the next you are looking forward to your 40s. So it really does creep up on you. You can plan all the planning, but you just life happens, life happens, and then you realize that, hey, Charlie, it left small, now I knock 30, left small, now I knock 40. So it's a slow journey, but it still happens. But today, dear, we are here to learn all the things that we need to know and do before the 30s happen.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, great. We are here to know and learn. So let me get into a question related to finances in the 40s, right? So David mentioned a few of the things. Paa Nii also alluded to some. So something like college expense or children's education. Is the planning for it different from how you'd have done in the 30s? We talked about regularly saving. David, you in the US, you mentioned certain college funds that you could have. And I think there are some tax breaks you get from investing towards certain college expenses. Is there anything unique in that regard in terms of education, children's education, in your 40s?
None that I can think of. I think that the way to save towards that is the same way you do with every or any other type of investment, right? You start somewhere and then you do it slowly. I tell people all the time that every Ghanaian in our Ghanaian culture, when you have a baby, you do a naming ceremony. The expense for that naming ceremony is for you, the parent. All the gifts that come in, the cash gifts, are for the kid. So if you're looking for a way to start, that money is the seed money that you're supposed to start with. That money does not go into your checking account to go and buy groceries for the house. You use that money to start the kids' college investment or the kids' investment account or whatever you want to call it. And then, as every month you commit to, you can start as small as 50, 25, whatever it is that you want to do. If you're a boy like Elikem, you can do $200, $100, whatever it is. But then you do it systematically. If the kid at, let's say, 1 or 6 months or whatever you're doing the naming, you put it in systematically, you'll be surprised by the time the kid is 18 how much money you've amassed. Like, you'll be literally blown away. So that's what I tell people all the time. Just start somewhere, start small, and then it's even to the point where people don't listen. So right now, when I go to your naming and I want to give you a gift, I ask you, does your kid have a college savings account? I want to go and put some money into that one. Or can you open one? If I'm close enough to you where you won't be offended, I'll be like, hey, can you open one because I want to put money into that account for you, you know? And there's been times where it's worked, and then there's been times where people are like, oh, maybe. I know at least two people that they've been like, maybe, and the kid is 5 years old and they haven't received that money yet. Every time I see them, I'm like, Charlie, the money is still there. I'm waiting, you know? So, yeah, there's no fancy way, no special way to save for that. It's just, how you do for any investment. Small to start with, just keep consistently doing it. Right now, I think I've said this here before. For the three kids that I have, my 2.5-year-old, my 6, and my 9, each of them has theirs. Every month, I see it go from my checking account to wherever it's going to get invested. And that is one thing that I try my best, no matter how, if I have to drink water and bread for that night, fine. But that money has to go because I know how it felt being a foreigner coming here. And I'm sure, Danielle can attest to this. When you're paying out of state tuition or foreign student tuition, it's a lot, you know. And me coming here and having to pay that type of tuition by myself during some part of my whole college life, it was tough. You got to pick up jobs here and there, and then the GPA tends to suffer a little bit because of that. So my goal is when my kids get to that point, I tell them, hey, your only problem in life right now is to give me an A. Go study. When the time comes to pay for the tuition, here's the check. Daddy's going to write the check, and you go, you study, you get your 4.0, and your life will get so much easier after that. Thank you.
Daddy's gonna write the check. That's what's up. That's what's up. It continues from what you said in your intro, that once you set the foundation right, compounding interest would be your best friend. This is the time when you started saving. Maybe I think you mentioned last week, when your wife conceives, immediately she's pregnant, you start putting something aside towards these education expenses, right?
That's what I did. That's how I started. I remember when I went to sign up my now 5-year-old for first grade. One of the things that you need to present is documents that show that you live in a certain area, because over here, wherever you live, the school that your kids go to has to be within a certain radius of where you live. So you cannot be living in Accra and then your kids go to school in Tema, unless you're going to a private school, which is super expensive. But if you go into the government schools, it has to be within a certain radius, and you have to prove that you actually live there. So you have to bring certain documents. And one of the documents that I submitted was a college savings account. And the woman was like, "What? Your kid is 5 and you already have one of these for them? Like, what's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Hey, I gotta start somewhere. If I start early, then I don't have to put in $1,000 a month. If I start late, then I would have to. But if I start early, I can afford to do, let's say, $25, $50 a month. And by the time the kid is 18 and ready to go to college, I'm all set." Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. The power of compounding interest. So just imagine 5-year-old already has this, and I can imagine that it's small, it's building up. The little drops have become a nice pond right now. 10 years to come, with compounding interests, it will be sufficient for her needs, and daddy's gonna write that check. Amazing. And let's remember what David said, and Paulina even said it even louder last week. Let's help our friends. Paulina, do you want to re-echo that point?
Well, yes. So what I said last week was that for every one of us, for our friends who have children or have babies, rather than give them money just to spend or gifts that they'll just spend, encourage them to open an investment account for their children. And personally, what I do is I do the research for the parents, and then I tell them that also you can go here or you can go there. And then I give them the money and follow up on it. Ask them, have you opened the account? How is it doing? Are you adding onto it? All that money that we use for small chops for Ojemo can go into the investment account for the baby, so that by the time they grow up, they already have a nest waiting for them. We can't wait until it's too late to start. Then, like David said, you have to put in a lot more. But if you start with little, then you can grow it gradually. So by the time the kids are old enough to have use for that money, you already have it available. Thank you.
Thanks for reminding us of that point. So Sewa raised their hand, but before we hear from Sewa, Paa Nii, how about you? What are your thoughts on preparing on financing your children's education in the 40s? They are older, high school, university. These are some of the thoughts that are coming in. Do you have any more insights or special tactics that you are doing that we could learn from?
I have, I guess, two extreme views to this. So some of the, I guess, more conventional views, like what David said, I totally agree with it. Starting early is key. It's key because then, I mean, if you're doing it in bits and pieces, you would not have to dole out, or you will not be compelled to spend large amounts or put away large amounts later in life to meet those essential things like education and stuff. And personally, and even though I thought, my parents could, I was compelled to finance my postgrad education on my own, and I'm happy to say that early on, when I think I started working most of, I guess, my national service stipend and my initial salary went into an investment account. And at the time I was ready, it was a good enough time to take it out. And that basically catered for my living expenses while away for a year. And it had accumulated to that much. So I get that. And I mean, where I guess my conventional views continue would be in relation to not just putting stuff away for them, but going a bit biblical and trying to set up some generational wealth in putting stuff away, not just for them, but maybe for their children. And we are not talking about setting something, setting them for life per se. I think that, I mean, like I said, it's biblical. I believe it's somewhere in the Bible that a man, you don't just leave it for your children, like well for your children, but for your children's children. And I think if you study Jewish culture, and there are some tenets that lean towards that point. So I think, I mean, I wouldn't say the burden, but for lack of a better phrase, it's useful to, if you can, in this trying time, not just put stuff away for projects and for their education, but even their children's children. Where my, I guess, conventional views end and the more controversial ones pick up relate to some work-related experiences that I've had that suggest taking a slightly different view. So, I mean, case in point, Elikem, I'm not sure you'd remember this, but remember one of the first clients that we had with the now closed real estate fund that we had, and he was sharing some of his experiences about building, and some of the lessons that I got from that conversation were like, I mean, yeah, he has land and can gift the land to his kids, but he will not build for them, and he will encourage them to build by themselves. And when they complain and say, well, I mean, I don't have money and stuff, he says, okay, just go and buy a bag of cement or two and store it under the right conditions. And when you amass enough, you are able to raise things up by 1 foot, and so on and so forth. And over time, that child who, I mean, seemingly on another path, you would have set them up for life without them really learning the lesson of having to do things on their own. They actually get to learn this way by building something. And that skill you cannot, it's something that people have to go through, and it's not something that people naturally come up with. And at the end of the day, the hope is somewhere down the line, other people within the line would also be brought up that way to learn to be dependent and to work on their own. So I would say that in some would be my view towards that.
Wonderful. That's your, should I call it the unconventional way? It's actually got me thinking, and it sounds like a good plan. At least you brought them some way, and they should carry on. And it's that sense of responsibility. I think that's a really good plan. That's a good plan. Mimi, you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, so what he just said aligns with, I mean, the book we read about a month or two, Millionaire Next Door, that spoke about not just, dishing out money to your kids because you make them reliant on you and you make them handicapped so much so that when you are not around, they struggle to take care of themselves. So I think it aligns with that. So helping them not to start from where you started from, but also making sure that their skin is in the game so that even when you are not around, you ensure that they can manage whatever it is you've left and also give it to the next generation and also train them well to manage it. That's how wealth is passed from one generation to the other. But if you make everything easy, once you are gone, everything is squandered back to zero, as if you never did any work. So I think it aligns with that book we read a few months ago.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
it
Mimi,
does.
I was thinking exactly about that when he was talking, and I was thinking. I mean, I hear what he's talking at what he's saying, and I agree with him 100%. But I didn't think it was that crazy. I mean, you work so hard to provide for your kids, and if you're gonna leave them stuff for themselves and their kids, the only best thing to do is to teach them the value of it and how to continue that cycle. Where now when they become your age, are also thinking of, okay, let me leave some for my kids and their kids too. And then it just keeps going on and on and on. And before you know, you've created a long line of, very responsible, financially responsible, family tree. And it's like, hey, it keeps going on and on. So yeah, it's very awesome, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Think
fine.
I'm sorry before you come in. So I'm also really, you all know that I'm very passionate about estate planning. So I'm really happy that Bosnia is doing something like this. And I want to find out, Bosnia, please, do you have, let's say, steps you are taking? I know your kids are
Jennifer,
quite
we are
young.
not in the office.
Pani. So, do you have, let's say, ways that you are trying to inculcate these habits into your kids? If you have, let's say, examples that you could talk to us about. Thank you.
I guess my kids are quite young, and I mean the oldest is 8, and the youngest is 4. So we aren't quite at the point of having conversations of that nature. But I mean, from an elementary perspective, I mean, teaching them to value things, I think that is where we are at. And right now, I think the most valuable thing they value are their toys and some of their props, and making sure that they take care of them is probably my first step to doing that.
So valuing things, and just to add on that, my sister was sharing an experience, and she works in the sciences, and she was talking about how there are some people who use the materials and just waste them. Someone wear a glove, the phone will ring, immediately take off the glove, throw it away, pick up the phone, answer it. When she's done, wear another glove, and waste a lot of equipment, a lot of stuff. And she had to walk the person through a budgeting process to show the person how expensive these things that they thought were so menial were. And the person was in shock. And these are donor-funded projects, so you have to go and defend them, and everything is imported. So in hundreds of thousands of dollars, the whole budget, and the person is shocked. So that lesson of teaching them to value stuff, I can totally relate to that, and it will definitely work. So my children should look out. Jenny.
Yeah, I have another example. So, somebody I know, they drink bottled water at home, and their kids are like between 10 and 13. And sometimes they'll just take one water just before you realize they didn't finish drinking the whole bottle, and the next time they're going to take something else, they'll take a new drink it. So the mother decided that before you go and take a new one, come and show me the empty bottle that you drank. And if she sees you throwing it away or pouring it away or just discarding it, you won't do it. Like the eyes and the things that the mannerisms will just prevent you from doing something like that. So it's teaching the kids that at least with something that is as, let's say, as trivial or as mundane as even water, you have to make sure that you finish this before you go and take another one, because we buy it with money. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a very good lesson. I'll keep that tactic in my toolbox. Great. Thank you, Paa Nii, for sharing your thoughts and getting us thinking about generational wealth. Sewa had her hand up, so Sewa, please do share your thoughts for us.
Good evening. So I don't want to sound morbid, but I want to ask about having a will. Is this something that ever crosses your mind? The men on the fourth floor here, if you could help. And I say this because the one thing that I am thankful for my father, who died, I'll say quite early, was actually he did have a plantation of teak and, timber. And I didn't even know how lucrative it is because, 15 years down the line, we are benefiting from it. And it's like a gift that keeps on giving. I mean, in a good way. But the other part of it is that he died intestate and living in a very typical Ghanaian community, a country like Ghana, where, yes, we have the PNDC law and all those things that protect, but, traditionally, sometimes there are issues. So I think I want to ask if this is something that when men get to their 40s, do they think about it in terms of, writing a will, or do they think it's too far away? I say this also because we know that generally men die before women. I mean, the averagely is about maybe 5 years to 7 years difference. And I think another thing I'd want to ask is that personally, I mean, as a wife, and my husband is also at that threshold of just getting into 40. Like, how can we as wives help you men to take your health seriously? Because we know that men usually die of, a lot of conditions, heart conditions, and so many things, depression. There's a lot of stress at work and things like that. So how can we help you, to stay healthy so that we can grow old together? Just in case, you don't have that one.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Sewa. I like these questions. I like the term you used in the first one, the men on the fourth floor. Wonderful. So we'll be hearing from the men on the fourth floor soon. And I like the angle of how can we also help. It's always nice when I hear people looking at the problem and asking, how can I help, instead of pointing fingers. I'm just impressed by this question. So let's take the first one on wills. And so, David, let's hear from you, then we hear from Paa Nii.
So personally, I don't think it's too early to start thinking about it. I have thought about it, and other options that would, do the same thing. The only reason why I haven't really, it's not the number one priority for me right now is because there are other things that I'm thinking about. And over here, not to say that the laws in Ghana don't work, but over here, the laws work very well, and everything that I have, my wife is already the beneficiary of it. So if God forbid anything happens, you know, that right there kicks in, and all she has to do is get the death certificate, go to the court, and then she gets appointed the executor of the will or whatever of the estate, and then she can basically consolidate everything that I have, and it's hers and the kids. If it's not her, it's either her with the kids as secondary beneficiaries, or it's the kids as the primary beneficiaries and she's the secondary. It's, everything is already in her name. God forbid anything happens. And I have this thing that I do. I have a nice little spreadsheet with a password on my computer that basically lists everything that my name is on. Even the ones that I have on the corner that I don't really talk about, it's all there. And if anything happens, boom, she has the one password to access everything. It has username and password and everything. So, and every once in a while, I just go and update the values so she knows, oh, okay, if you kick rocks, there's this $20 here. Let's go and find it and, use it. So no, I don't think it's too early points. Should I answer the rest, or we're gonna come back? Yeah.
We'll come back.
Okay, cool.
Let me just chip in before we hear from Paa Nii. This just reminds me, when you said it's not too early and you talked about how your wife is the beneficiary, then I just remembered how my wife eyes me sideways when we talk about beneficiaries on certain accounts, because like we said, we are finance professionals and we are having these discussions about the right things to do, but we are not perfect. We are humans, so they have some things that we are missing out on. I haven't changed all the beneficiaries, but on 10th August, I wasn't well, so on 10th August, as we were preparing for my surgery, I wrote certain passwords down for her, my phone, my email, I think 3, and then I told her that when you enter them, this is where you find these things. If I survive, you tear this paper and destroy it. But if I don't, well, it's all yours. Go and have fun. So yeah, anyway, I just remembered that moment. Now I can look back and laugh, but at the time it wasn't funny. So yeah, it wasn't too early. I'm not in my 40s, but I was definitely thinking about it on my before the theater.
So I cheat on the paper.
She said she has, so I'm trusting that she has. Yeah, she said
But
she has,
Elike,
so yeah.
over here, certain retirement accounts, if you have them, by law, if you're a married person, you can't even put anybody else as the beneficiary. It's automatic. So, if I had a side chick, I couldn't even put her down as my beneficiary for that type of account, which I have some. So, unfortunately, the law works for the married wives. So I don't worry. If I die, everything is yours, okay? My side chick is not getting
I was
anything.
just going to ask you, did I catch the joke? And I'm not getting the joke.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I
Okay, you were
was
saying something, Nelly.
asking whether your wife has gone up the
Yes, I asked and she said she has. So I think, so I want to believe she has.
next week when she comes, we'll ask her. She shouldn't have torn it up, cry.
Okay, I have contingencies for that. So yeah, but yeah, it should be in a safe place that will only be triggered on this thing. Anyway, so moving on to Paa Nii. Paa Nii, what are your thoughts on this wills?
Oh, I totally agree. It can never be too early to start thinking about and then even going ahead to doing it. I think some of the frustrations that people have, they're like, what card do I have to my name? What assets do you have? What liabilities do you have as well? Because I think that is equally important. You don't want a scenario where your spouse has no idea. I mean, how your balance sheet looks like, what you own and what you owe. Money is a funny topic in our culture, so perhaps things may not be overtly discussed. It's important that they know. Um, I some years ago, and here's where I think Sewa originally mentioned it being morbid. Um, One time my dad actually sent us a mail. I mean, saying that he loved us, but in his line of work, he was then a regulator at Ghana's SEC. I think he had seen too many people not know that they have like their spouses and stuff left monies for them, and he didn't want that situation to be his. I know he has a will now, but then he actually documented everything he had. And the first thought that came to mind was one. I mean, yes, it's morbid, but it showed me my dad, who previously I thought was like Superman and larger than life, showed me that he's human. And I proceeded to do more or less the same. I think a year or two later, documenting everything that I had in a Google Docs document. I later on, some years later, actually did a will. And in fact, lately I've been thinking about refreshing it or something of the sort, just to make sure that I capture everything. Away from that, then Eric, you mentioned, no, I think it was David. You mentioned something about passwords and stuff. I work a lot on the cloud, especially using Google solutions, and I found out that in the event that your account remains inactive for a number of years, there's some kind of function where the information can be sent to people you trust. I think there's an option for you to send it to, I think, two people. So I elected my wife and my brother, my only brother, and those are the only two people like I trust with that information. So anything to do with any conversations or um, that asset schedule or anything of the sort gets automatically sent to them after a couple of maybe months of inactivity. And every now and then Google will actually remind you that this setting exists, and if you want to maintain it, just click OK. So I've had that as my fail safe thing, and also activated. If and this just away slightly digressing from wills. If you are the prime provider for your family, and I mean the unfortunate thing happens, and you are not around. I've also learned that it's good to have a fail-safe mechanism for at least maybe 3 maybe to 6 months, the first 3 to 6 months, because ahead of them accessing the substantive stuff, like let's say maybe your pension benefits at places, that could take a while to process. They will likely be getting over the grief of you having gone, planning your funeral and everything, and then having to deal with all the paperwork and all these rounds and stuff. So it would be best for your fail-safe plan to be, I guess, a well-funded account that could allow for your family to live comfortably or normally for at least the first 3 to 6 months that you may not be around, ahead of them, ahead of the will and those assets being accessible to them. I think I'm done.
Wow. This is why we do this. We have these conversations on Money Convos. I've just learned 2 very new things. This Google function is something I'm going to look into and then activate. And this angle to having should we call it? You said a fail safe. For the first 6 months, while all these pension benefits and all that are going to kick in, get an early down, all that. Heck, you even found getting the early down, because those processes cost some money too. So that's a very brilliant idea. Mimi, what you want to chip in?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out how to go about that particular account. Should it be in a joint account that is accessible by both spouses, or what account would you advise that money goes into to avoid any long processes?
So I think it could be a regular joint account, but from a signatory perspective, if it is one to sign, it would empower the person to have access to it. Anything that would require yourself to sign as well would then pose a problem, because you're not around to do anything. But ideally, I think also if it's in the person's name, it would be, I guess, more readily accessible to that person. And I think that would also be best.
I'm normally not in favor of joint accounts, but this makes a very good case for it. So please, if ever you're on the other side and you are asked to, and such an account is open for such a purpose, please stick to the purpose, okay? Only when that matter is triggered before you go and cash out. Okay, so I had a second question, and it was about how can wives help their husbands work towards their health. So did I capture the question properly?
Yes.
Wonderful. So this time, let's start from Paa Nii. Paa Nii, are there any ways that your wife has been cajoling you, or you prefer a different way? Maybe she starts with some 2 balls of kinky before the conversation starts.
Okay, so let me share my experience. So my wife likes to experiment with stuff. She's very, unlike me, I think she's very DIY. From doing handy things at home, and even as far as cooking and everything is concerned, she's extremely the word is not eccentric, but she's unconventional. I think she's been very encouraging in terms of trying to get me to eat healthily, live healthily. And I think a lot of the positive habits I have now are largely on account of her intervention. For me, I used to be quite active when I was younger. I used to play basketball. I don't get a chance to do that much anymore, so I've elected to walk. I used to do early mornings before work, and that really kicked in, especially during remote working. So I've come to appreciate that, as well as some more healthy eating. At work, I'm usually a desk junkie, and I like to pace and walk when I'm on a call, and I'm sure, I mean, Jennifer and Elikem will
So that's
testify
why you
to
do
me
that.
walking. Yeah.
Ah.
So, like, I walk up and down in the office while I'm on a call with a Bluetooth headset on, just to accumulate some steps. Yeah, and I guess to that point, I don't know if I'm deviating from Sarah's initial comment, but one of our colleagues, I think our group chief marketing officer, has this saying that, I mean, what gets measured gets done. And she probably was using this in a work context, but what I took home from that, as far as maybe living healthily, as far as getting a certain minimum hours of sleep are concerned, and making sure you walk a certain number of steps a day, check your blood pressure, have your annual medical checks. Fun fact, it's good to schedule your annual medical checkup close to your birthday. That way you will not forget. Because you don't forget your birthday, chances are that you will not forget to do that medical checkup in the first place. So, I mean, but back to the point, if you're measuring some of these things, you have a fitness device, or even if you don't have that and you have your phone, some apps can allow you to track some of these things, and you'll be on the road to, I guess, living more healthy.
Wonderful.
David, before you come, I want to ask Paa Nii a question. Paa Nii, do you still work in the evening?
I have slowed down because okay, so some personal reasons. We had nanny challenges, and we had to let go of our nanny about 2-3 months ago, and it meant all hands on deck, regardless of the hours. So I haven't walked in maybe 2.5 months. Walked the way I usually would, but I still pace around when I'm on a call. So I don't quite hit my steps, but I'm fairly active.
Okay.
Now I know what to tell the gossips in the office when they look at you weirdly when you're on the phone call. So thanks for sharing.
Look at me, I'm the first person.
Aren't you the one who was looking at me the last time?
No, please.
Anyway, so thank you, Paa Nii, for sharing those. I got to the part about the measuring the things, so that the wife could help keep track of these things and be encouraging. That's great. So now, as we are getting David to answer this question, I can anticipate that his romantic side is going to come out. Anyway, let's see how that goes, David. Because whenever David and his wife matter comes, make some way. Very nice, David. Please, let's hear you.
Romantic side.
You see, you're about to put me on the spot. You're about to put me on the spot. But when Paa Nii was talking, I was blinking my mic crazy because he said something about scheduling the annual physical on your birthday. And fun fact, I just did mine last week, and it's going to be, I think, around my birthday. So, yes, that is absolutely true because you never forget your birthday. So, my answer to Sewa is that sometimes as men, even when you need to go and do a medical checkup, hey, I'm fine, we want to tough it out. Please, if he's your husband or if he's your boyfriend, hammer it into his head, even if he gets mad. Hey, Master, have you gone to do your checkup? hammer it into their heads. I don't know why, even over here, Ghana phone pet medical checkups, cry. So keep hammering it into them. For me, um, one thing that I like to do the walk, and you guys over here know me. I do my cycling. I love cycling. It's just it takes your mind off things, and then you get out there and you bike is and I say, what why fine. Um, Side joke, so you guys can stop nagging us. Maybe that one too will help, but you know, um, yeah. Everything
Shade.
Pani, everything Pani said, I totally agree with it. Just let us know, right? Let us know. See, for me, because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to do it the past, well, 2020, and I haven't done it yet, 2021. So, my wife reminded me, like, hey, you haven't had your stuff checked out. And I had to quickly go ahead and do it because I didn't want to have to hear from her again. But I'm typically good with these things. I don't play around with it. Luckily, the health insurance that I have is very good. If I have an issue, I don't need to go to my doctor. I can go straight to the specialist. So I take advantage of it. I don't mess around with it. You guys can help by also, since no shade here, but since you guys are the ones who typically handle the eating and stuff in the homes, you can help us by also cooking healthier stuff, encouraging us, because sometimes if me, the man, I'm telling you, say, oh, let's go work out together or let's eat healthy. For me personally, it feels like I'm telling you you're fat. And God knows I don't do that. I don't like to do that. But it's nice if we both do it together because it's fun. You know, you're hanging out with your hubby, it feels good, that kind of thing. And then while you're doing that, you're both getting healthy together. So, yeah, um, good food, workouts. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, David, I think when you said you didn't, the nag after saying the nagging, you don't want to hear from your wife on that topic again. We adults here, but isn't it because you don't want to lose some points? So you just get it done so that the way will be clear.
Well, so my last one that I did, right, the doctor was trying to tell me that because I'm approaching my 40s, there's certain things that I had to do, and I don't know if Pani has had to face that yet, but certain procedures that they have to check, it's very, very uncomfortable, and I don't want to do that. So I was kind of avoiding having to go see the doctor now that I'm in the 40 and I need to do certain things. But as far as also working out, I'm a big Apple guy, as you guys are aware of. So I have my Apple Watch. I'm tracking my steps every once in a while. I get up, I'm like, okay, I see my standing ring. I have to stand up and walk around a bit. And I always like to see all three rings go around. So I could be sitting down not doing anything. I lift up my wrist and I see that my rings are not closed yet. I get up and I do a quick 5 minute walk around the house and then boom. So it's something that not that I need somebody to tell me to be active, but having that, it also helps me. And it excites me when I look at it and every day I see all my rings close up. So yeah, that's one of my other encouragements. Thank you.
Nice one there. Nice one there. Okay, Jennifer, you had some thoughts you wanted to share?
Yeah, so healthy. I think as you get to, let's say, 40, 50, that's where a lot of things catch up with you. So if you are not getting ill so much now, you feel like, yeah, let's say, tired more easily, or you're getting small things here and there. And so the checkup, the annual checkup, and then the eating healthily will be good for you. And seriously, just because I got sick not long ago, it has really drummed it home for me, because you could be fit or something, or you may think that, oh, you are really healthy, but then you'll be grinding throughout, enjoying your life, and then before you realize, something so will suddenly hit you, and you be found wanting, especially as you get older and then you become weaker. Yes, so I think it's really important that, especially if you are getting 30, 40, you really take exercising your health very seriously, so that as you are saving up for your retirement, your kids' education, estate planning, and everything, at least you could live long too. Because I like the way Sewa said it was morbid with her father dying quite early. And so, apart from the fact that the man left something that they could, I think she would want her fathers to still be alive so that they could talk, if not for her, for him to see his grandkids. So I think we should all take it very seriously and make sure that we plan to live. Yeah, thank you.
And also, okay, real quick. Also, those of you that are workaholics, when you hit your 40s, please take some time to enjoy life. Take a break from work. You know, fix your mental health. You know, just relax. Sleep a little bit more. I mean, all work and no play. You know, you all know what the rest is. So when it comes to these times now, because there are times where, you know, if you're a workaholic, you're not spending enough time at home. Take some time off, go hang out with your kids. The kids get to enjoy daddy and mommy a little bit, you know, so that they're not only experiencing you when you are very, very serious. Show them your relaxed and goofy side a little bit, you know. Yeah, take a break and sleep in or go out with the kids. That one too helps. Thank you.
Wonderful. Take a break. That's a good one. Take a break. I'll keep that in mind. Send your elbow on me and send you said that one day. I'll definitely keep that in mind. Speaking of, just on the side, speaking of, good food and healthy food, I can attest to Paa Nii's wife's food. There was one time when we were working in the office on a weekend, then Paa Nii brought enough food to share. Charlie, healthy food, there it was nice. I realized that, okay, it's not only the junk food that is nice, healthy food too can be nice. Anyway, all right, great. So, Sewa, do these answers fully satisfy you?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Well, thank you for those questions, very thought-provoking questions. So, to anyone who
Great question, Sewa.
So I will be counting on you for next week too. Next week's title is really interesting. Mimi, you couch the title in a certain way. Would you like to say it?
You put me on the spot.
Yeah, you're listening too much.
I think it's if is it too late? Something like that.
Yes. So life in the 50s, is it too late for you? So yeah, we will be discussing that. So yeah, so we're looking forward to your questions for next week, and everyone else looking forward to you joining us next week. So far, we are on the topic of conquering the challenges of your 40s. It's part of a series we are running this month. We started with the 20s, the challenges of the 20s, getting out of school, finding a job. And then the theme was more of hustle, right? And then in the 30s, we heard that there's more pressure, pressure from yourself, pressure from your family, pressure from all around. People expect that you should have figured everything out, So there's pressure in there. And in the 40s, I'm getting the vibe that now it's more about responsibility. And so it's good to hear from Paa Nii and David, our resident men on the fourth floor, who are sharing their experiences with us. And we'll continue next week with the 50s. Is it too late? And hopefully we'll get some more people in there. So feel free to join in on the conversation if you have any questions you'd like to ask. Most of us are younger than 40, so at least this would help us prepare. Like David said in the introduction, it's good to know this information so that once the groundwork is done, once your foundation is done, everything will just fall into place. All right, Mimi.
Oh, I just wanted to invite NK. I think you'll be very valuable up here too. So, NK,
yes.
If you are able, please come up.
Yes.
Mimi, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I deal with NK a lot, and he's a very knowledgeable gentleman who also happens to be a man of God, and I love that.
Right.
So this one is by popular request. NK, by popular request, please come and give us some words of wisdom. let us tap into your wisdom. Okay, well, Enki, oh, great.
You have to
Enki,
forgive me.
welcome.
Where I am, I just wanted to listen in because it's not a very, I'm in a hot place small, but I'll try and join you again where I
Great,
can
No,
talk.
even one sense is fine.
You can hear from the quality of the voice that Papi Bekanyansa. Seriously.
They give pressure.
Anyways, it's great to have you join us, even if it's
Yes,
listening in.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you so
And
much.
well done on the amazing job. I'll be listening in.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Speaking of listening, we've started recording our sessions, starting with this series. So look out for our YouTube channel, Money Convos, on YouTube. Search for it and listen in. If you've missed any conversation, you can just go back and listen. I usually prefer listening to things at faster than one. So 1.25 the speed or 1.5, but people say I'm strange, but anyway, so you can just listen in. And if you don't like YouTube, or you prefer an audio only experience, because yes, you could save on data too while you're at it. There's a podcast. So we have a podcast. It's you could just search or go on our Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and you find the link, but just search for Money Convos. But you'll definitely find the link on in the description of our YouTube and our Twitter. You'll find the link there, or message any of us and we'll put the link in there. I think we have to update the club bio and put that in there so that you can easily search for it. It's currently on Anchor, Spotify, it's on Google Podcasts, it's on a few other podcasts. Apple would be published very soon, but yeah, you can catch up on all these conversations, the 20s and the 30s, on YouTube and on podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie. Douglas can attest to this. Jennifer can attest to this. So, and I'll definitely encourage you, tune in while you are commuting, whether you're driving or you're in public transport, or like David on the subway or something. Just listen into Money Convos. Anything you've missed out on, you find out, especially for most of us who are in our 20s. There were very powerful gems in the 20s there. So you'd find a lot to catch up on over there. Okay, so let me ask another question to our men on the fourth floor, and then we can start taking closing remarks and advice for people ahead to prepare for the 40s. Let's talk about your career. So in the 20s, you're trying to figure out your career, do education. In your 30s, okay, now you've gotten a job that maybe now you can afford to save a little bit more, than before, and you're not too tight. I can imagine in your 40s, how your profession, you are deep into the manager level. I can introduce Paa Nii in the beginning. He's the head of data bank asset management services. So my organ at the top, that's him over there. And then David, also a big man. I think in a previous room, you mentioned that you have an office with a window view.
No.
Yes, I remember.
That was my previous job, my previous life.
Okay, no problem. But you're still a big man, contributing to a team of regulators who figured out the Robin Hood issue and find
Master,
them the cool 70 million.
Inside my house there, I'm a very big man. Outside my house there, Obi and Ubia, Master.
Okay, great. But let's talk a little about career. How in your 40s, how is your career different, and how is it affecting your life? Paa Nii mentioned the work-life balance too in there, and you mentioned some leadership things that you've picked up. So if you can just delve into that a little deeper. Paa Nii, please start.
I guess, okay, so my personal experience, I have inevitably leaned in more to work than, I guess, family life. And it stems from aspects of my past where I don't think I've taken advantage of things as and when they came by. And I always feel that I have something to prove and that helps me, I guess, tune in more naturally to work. Um, I think I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to um, work at an organization that recognize my ability and has put me in a position to influence change and to have an impact. And so, I mean, from that perspective, I feel deeply privileged. The challenge I have now, work and family life balance aside, really relates to thinking about the future and making sure that the experience and I guess the work and the life and in this case, I guess Databank's future doesn't necessarily end with me. I've spent 15 years working in Databank in different capacities, and I mean I may be veering off topic now, but when I do leave, I'll like there to be some kind of legacy. Not that I want any room or so named after myself, but in the people that I work with, I'm extremely passionate about seeing them also do things that are even more exciting than what I have done. So from that perspective, yes, I've devoted a lot of time to getting to know people that I work with and trying to encourage them to achieve the fullest potential. And that may not necessarily always line up with what you want or what the company wants. I think at the end of the day, if you really care for someone, even if they get a good offer, you should be man enough to assess whatever opportunities they get, and if you care for them, you'd accept it blindly. As far as home is concerned, it continues to be a struggle, but I think, I mean, once again, I think the circumstances that we find ourselves in now has actually helped me get better at it, and it's my hope that I'll continue to improve and make more time for family, spend more time with my family, and get to know my kids and my wife even more. I think that's what I have to say on the matter.
That's a very good experience. In fact, and on the management side, I am a beneficiary to these some of these things that Paa Nii mentioned. You know, thinking about the personal life of your subordinates and yeah, benefited a lot. I'm sure Jennifer too is there. She has benefited a lot. And she's smiling.
Yes, I have.
Yes. No, let me just chip this in, not because not to tease Paa Nii or put him on the spot, but you know, Paulina, you know, all this my talk of MBA this year, you know who actually got me started? I had scheduled to start at a certain time, but you know who got me off my, pardon my French, off my ass and got me started? Paa Nii. He's like, you know what? Talk to this Kishan in Kenya. He's going to MIT. Talk to him, and I talked to Kishan during that week, I registered for Magush and it got the ball rolling, you know. So he's the one, all this, I want to go to Harvard. As far as timing is concerned, and then pointing me towards the right resources, he's the one that we can say that he got me started. Otherwise, maybe I would have started a month later, maybe 2 months later. So yeah.
Let me say something before Paulina comes. Oh, Paa Nii.
You guys shouldn't have gone there, Kara. You shouldn't have gone there.
Oh, he's tearing up. Okay. All right, great. So let's see. David, how about you on the career side?
So to add to what Paa Nii is saying, right, in your 40s, I think it's the time where you would have been established in whatever career path that you choose to be in, right? And this is the time too where typically, if whatever it is that you're doing, it's not necessarily always about the money. Let's say somebody offers you a different gig than what you have, right? You're not necessarily looking at, okay, what's my take home pay? Because you're looking at now you're looking at, benefits. How much flexibility do I have? Can I pick up my kids from school? Can I spend a little bit more time with my wife? Those things. Because now, no, you're balancing the work life with the family life and, trying to draw a balance between that. Because if you're somebody like me or Paa Nii or some of the men who are a bit more active in the home that, like to help out or, do stuff around the house with the wife and don't leave the child care to the spouse alone, then these things start matter to you, like being able to pick your kids up or drop them off to school and all that stuff. So for me, at this point in my life, I'm not looking to switch careers. I already know what I like to do, and I'm already in that path. So it's just about building up on it and advancing within the career path. And then as I'm doing that, also looking to see how much leeway and how much time I can spend away from work and also with my kids. I remember back when I was younger, it used to be that almost every year I'd have so many vacation days. Nowadays, most of my vacation days are planned around times when my kids have a break from school, you know, or times where in the American system, they have holidays. Like coming in November, there's this Thanksgiving holiday. My vacation is usually planned around the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, the kids' spring break, the kids' vacation, so we can do stuff together as a family. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add to what Paa Nii said. Thank you.
Jennifer, I think this one also deserves another all.
Oh, David.
Wonderful, wonderful. A family man through and through. It's not just about the money. Thinking about the benefits. That's very profound. And yeah, so it's very good advice. So young people, make all the money you want, and when you get to the 40s, think about the benefits, right? Anyway, I'm trivializing it, but you heard the message from David. All right, let's hear from Mimi, then Jennifer.
David, so I just wanted to find out, right now that the kids are younger, it seems very time consuming. Doesn't mean it gets worse.
It's time consuming when they're young, right? When they start getting a bit older and they can take care of themselves, then you get to pull back a bit. And even at that time, hanging out with mom and dad is not cool. Mom and dad are not going to be cool forever. Oh. So now, no, when they are young, like me and Paa Nii and you guys with the young kids under 10, 11, once they get into their teens, you become the most uncool person to even hang around with. So they're not going to want to do that. So if you don't capture it now, they get older and then they don't want to hang out with you. And then that's when, the friends and the uh, external influences come in. And before you know, you and your kid don't have any bond, don't have any connection. So for me, I feel like I tell my wife and my kids all the time, I'm trying to get all the kisses I can get from my little babies now. Because very soon, I'm going to have to beg them just to even give me a hug. So hey, anytime that my son is very touchy feely, he sees me now. Hey dad, wants to come and give me a hug. Please bring it on. 24/7. I'm here for you. Because once you get to your teens, you see me and it's like, there goes my dad. So yeah, I'm enjoying it though.
Nice one there. Bring it on. He's enjoying it. That's interesting. Jennifer?
Okay, so my question is to the two men that we are listening to. I want to find out if you have any, looking back at your life, would you change anything, any decision you made, and anything at all? And also, are you do you know about like midlife crisis in your life, and what are the pressures, not necessarily challenges, let's say career, work or anything, or but pressures that you feel like you are facing now that you are in your 40s? Yeah, thank you.
Paa Nii, do you want to
Okay,
go ahead,
who
or
would
should
like
I?
to go ahead first? Who bought the Ferrari
Okay,
first?
okay. I'll go ahead. I'll go
Okay.
ahead. So, I mean, if there's anything I'd want to maybe do differently, I think I could have taken a few more risks when I was younger. There are projects in mind. Some of them I'm working on now. A host of others that I came up with years ago. I think I would have been in a better shape or frame of mind if I took those risks then, as far as those projects are concerned. Now, I think I overthink things. And as a result, I mean, evaluating the risk and maybe looking at family, trying to judge and see what the potential fallout could be. If it's just me, I mean, some of those risks are somewhat tolerable, but when it concerns other people, I'm very careful about what I do or what I embark on. So yeah, if I had to do this all over again, it's possible that I would have taken on a bit more risk, maybe as far as some activities are concerned. David also spoke about taking time off. I would like to do that. Traditionally, I've been very bad at doing it. Um, if I was younger, I would have taken perhaps maybe a whole year off, just to really think and plan and think life. But now, I mean, I will be hunting to exhaust my leave each year, if for nothing at all. If it's not even to rest, it will be at home. I'll be at home and I'll be helping out with stuff at home. I think that would bring me a lot more fulfillment than just leaving accumulated leave days each and every year. So that's it for me.
Interesting. More risk, more risk. I could see that David was itching to jump in on that one. David, regrets?
I was actually clapping for Paa Nii because I don't know if Paa Nii is in my head or it's just that it's something to do with us being in our 40s. Because again, for the second time, he just took the words right out of my mouth. When you're younger and there's no kids and wife, decisions, you don't care about how it affects anybody because it doesn't affect anyone but you. So for me, it's one of those things. Yeah, I remember before I got married, right? I wanted to get a motorcycle license and buy a motorbike, and I procrastinated. And then I met my wife, and then in the beginning, of course, we were still dating, so I guess maybe she didn't feel like she had the right to say it yet. But then I started getting serious towards the tail end, even up to like the week of us getting married, and then she started voicing concerns. Hey, in a motorcycle there, is it safe? And so now I'm sitting here. If I can even talk about midlife crisis, not that I have any, but I wish I had really learned how to ride my motorbike and actually bought one, because the one that I used to ride when I was younger, I don't know what they call it now, but it's one of those. It's a motorbike, all right, but it was just automatic. You just turn the shift and then boom, you are going. And I didn't get to learn the one where you change gears and you do all kinds of tricks. But yeah, just like Paa Nii said, certain risks that I would have liked to take that I didn't take. And once the wife comes in and the kids come in, every single decision you want to take, you got to consider how it affects the wife, how it affects the kids. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's something you do as a thoughtful human being who has a wife and kids. So now you can't take decisions so quickly and so rationally because you have to think about things. So yeah. But as far as midlife crisis, I can't really think of any. I guess maybe that might be people in their 50s. I don't know. Because for me, I'm so chill. Like nothing really bother me. I'm just like, hey, whatever. Once I get my good music and I'm somewhere in my couch watching a good movie, or I'm playing with the kids. You should see me when I'm with my kids, man. You think I'm like 12 years old. I like to get in there and experience what they're experiencing with them. I don't know. Thank you.
Wonderful. Your mom wants to get a Harley, so we'll be waiting for you to buy the Harley Davidson. Okay. So, Paa Nii, how about you? Midlife crisis? Have you felt it yet, or it can wait?
If it has hit me, I don't think I even remember. Yeah, I don't know. I can't identify with that concept as yet. It's possible it may hit me later, but I don't know. I'm okay as it is now. I think there are too many things occupying our minds, at least at this point in time, for it to wonder and have what if questions. So yeah, I think that's what I'll say on the matter.
Wonderful. But
I also think that it could be one of those things where it's an African thing. It's like, yo, you have so many things to worry about. You don't have time to have midlife crisis. Like, what do you mean you have midlife crisis?
First world problems.
True.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess, like you said, if it hits us, we'll know. But other than that, it's like, Charlie, I got too many things to think about. Though. What is midlife crisis? And by the way, Elikin, I had scoped out some Harley Davidson that I was Charlie, and there's a Harley Davidson dealer, like a manufacturing place about 2.5 hours from me, right? And I know that place. I visited the place before, so I was just so ready to go and get me my brand new Harley Davidson. And then I got married, and it's like, is it safe? I don't want to, you're out there riding, and then you don't come back, and then I'm here by myself. What are we gonna do? So it's okay. So, you see, if you had let me go get my Harley Davidson, I'll be sitting here thinking about Harley Davidson and motorbikes.
Okay, someone in the audience who said I shouldn't go and buy motor, so you can hear. You don't want me to reach my 40s and then I also be regretting the way David is regretting. So, well noted.
Really came straight shot this evening like this.
My friend, we haven't finished talking about the that you I we haven't finished that little bit of crap.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's see. Mimi, I think you had wanted to say something earlier.
Yeah, I think both David and Paa Nii mentioned not being able to take risk, and I'm not 40, but I totally I think by nature I'm risk averse, but I totally get what you're talking about because initially, even as men, you do all sorts of things, try all sorts of businesses and all that. But now you have school fees to pay, you have bills to pay. You can't like just behave as if those things don't exist. So my question is, how do you balance it? How do you, make sure you're taking care of the necessities, but you are also taking risk? Because you don't want to look back and look at all the opportunities that you could have taken advantage of, but you were too afraid, to step out. So how do you balance it? That's my question.
Interesting one. Any takers? How do you balance? Okay, Paa Nii.
So, okay, don't in my view, stop procrastinating, and just get to doing. Sometimes some of those plans, if you went to business school or you're trying to follow some structure, you may be tempted to follow the rules and do all the needful, like form a business plan, and be nice and glossy, have a logo, and all those things before you actually get to the meat of the matter. Just get started. and it may start with one small thing. I'm not saying that a business plan is bad or having an elaborate plan to execute is in any way negative. But if you're waiting for things to align perfectly, chances are that you're not going to be presented with those perfect conditions to be able to execute the way you want. I'll use myself as an example. I have of the ideas that I came up with some years ago. There was one in particular that was dear to me because I realized, but before I became an asset manager, I was into research, and I found out that access to information was a challenge. So I came up with some kind of an online library concept for financial information in the country, and I started with all the things, having a business plan, reserving a website name, and all those things. I even got developers to do it, and some chop my money. These are some of the risks that I'm talking about taking. But at the end of the day, I mean, how I really got going with that was some leave period that I was away, and I just started making calls to build my library. And then somewhere along the line, I got a developer to do the website using a template. And the rest, I would say, was more or less history. It's something that I still do. I call it a hobby that doesn't pay anything, considering how long I've been, I guess, judiciously or regularly updating the site. But it does give me, I am passionate about it, and somewhere along the line, I know I will be faced with this opportunity where I'll just get tired of being in the rut that I am of just building this thing at this level, and I would want to push it further and take it to the next level. Maybe the second thing I would like to add, as far as risk taking is concerned, yes, you should start whenever, start with the little things, but by all means start. But you should also assess the risk. Make sure that it's something that it would not overly burden you if you undertake it. That's what I have to say.
Wonderful, wonderful. David, you want to add on?
So to add on to what Paa Nii was just saying, which I totally agree with, right? For me, assessing the risk, planning for it, right? Make sure that if, let's say, it's something that's capital intensive, that capital is not coming out of your, rent money, mortgage money, students' tuition, and all that kind of stuff. My wife and I discussed certain, trying to have side businesses. And typically when we talk about it, this is how the conversation goes. Okay, so we all know that every business, it takes between 2 to 5 years to break even. Okay, when it gets to a point where one of us has to get more involved, it may need for that person, either me or her, to quit our day jobs. Now, if we could quit the day jobs, now health insurance for the kids and all that. So how are we going to structure that? We move the kids to whoever, the other spouse who's still doing their day jobs. They take care of the kids as far as health insurance and everything. And then the one who's getting heavily involved, now that person's income is not coming anymore. Do we have enough saved so that the one income is sustaining us all? If yes, then maybe we could do that. If no, then we have to think about saving something up so that can happen. Because for most of the things that we've thought about, it would take, either a continuous back and forth to Ghana to go handle stuff, or one of us actually maybe even permanently moving to Ghana to go and run things while, you find some reliable people to handle things for you. So these are all kind of communications that we do to figure out how best to do it. Whereas if it was just me with no wife and kids, I could say, okay, fine, I'm going to move to Ghana. I've saved up maybe 6-7 months of living expenses. I'm going to move to Ghana I know over there I have a house that my dad has a house, so I don't have to pay rent. I can just go and do that. But now you got to think about all these things and how it affects your actions affect them, and then move accordingly. Thank you.
Wonderful. So in this case, you have to think twice before you move back to Medina. Okay. That's
for sure. Medina in the house. Shout out to everybody that lives in Medina, New Road Estate. Shout out to you. That's my hood, man.
shaking my head. Okay, great. Thank you, Mimi, for that question.
Here.
Yeah, Paa Nii is a Medina person. Oh, interesting.
No, Paa Nii's parents live in Medina.
But Paa Nii grew up there, or?
Yes.
Nice. You like came in your Tasako living. You
What?
take your Tasako. We are
Trasako.
Medina.
Paa Nii, no. It's not like I've been lying
Medina.
to them. Okay, no. They have been projecting some things on me. No. I'm not a Trasako person. Please.
You're speaking into your life and say.
Amen. Okay, fine. Amen. I receive it. Great. Okay, so it's been a good conversation. Good questions have come up. Those of us who are younger are taking cues, and we are looking forward to our 40s. We've discussed some morbid things, but they are important, they are necessary, so we'll get through them. Good question about how we can help our partners, and apologies for it being only 2 men. I would have liked for some more people to join, but and even have some ladies on who also in their 40s. So please, if you are in your 50s and or anyone who is open to having a conversation on this and in their 50s, please let us know about this person. Invite the person to next week's conversation, Thursday, 7 p.m. right here on Clubhouse. And let's talk about the 50s. So we've talked about the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, Paulina, but I've just missed your voice a little. So if you don't mind, for those of us who were listening in, if you could just say one thing that you've learned about the 40s, Paulina, Mimi, and Jennifer. And that could be our way of wrapping up the session. So Paulina, are you in a position to start, or landlord wants your time? Okay, I think Paulina's line was breaking. Vodafone must be doing a number on her, but yes, she's appreciative of what we've learned, and so that's great. Jennifer, how about you?
Okay, so the first thing that is foremost on my mind is Paa Nii's fail-safe account, because I have been in a position where I was attending to a client and the person really needed the money in the deceased's data bank account, and apparently was supposed to help them sort out the kids' school fees or something, and had to go to a very long process because it was part of the deceased estate. So you really need something that will tide you over in the first 6 months or so. If let's say you don't have work or something, and then somebody that is the breadwinner dies in your family. So it is very important that those of us who are working and who are in a position to put in something like that will do that. So yeah, that is one thing that I really learned, that I'm happy that I listened to. And the second thing that I would also say is that those of us who are not 40 yet, we will get there. Like, you sleep and you wake up and the seconds are just ticking by, and before you realize you are 40. So it's good that we take these nuggets from these men who have gone through and who are making strides in whatever they do, so that we can also get there. So thank you very much for this conversation.
We are taking our strides and we'll get it. You sleep and you wake up, Charlie, that's a good way to make time pass, right? But you'll be hungry anyway if you don't do it well. Okay, Mimi, how about you?
Yeah.
I think today's conversation basically places more emphasis on the last two conversations that we spoke about, the need to build a solid foundation, because it seems as the kids come in, you need to switch, or you need to switch from spending more time, building your career, and allocate a bit more time, being there for the kids if you really want them to grow up. And if you really want to influence, them, how do I put it? Well, as they are growing up. So I think that when we are younger, let's not, I don't know if it's just me, but I realized in my 20s, I wasn't serious at all. Like when I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking? So I'm just like, all that time could have been used to build a solid foundation so that when it gets to the time where family needs me more, I would have built that foundation, be in a better place. And then, I can, balance it nicely, hopefully, or even have control over my time. I really like what David said about, as you grow, your priorities change. Now you want more control over your time so that it's not all about money, like it is. I mean, there was this post on Twitter about salaries, and you can see a lot of young people are all about money. But I think as you grow up and you have a family, you see them grow, your priorities change. So for me, I'm just wondering, okay, how do I position myself well so that when I get to that stage, I have the time to be able to, be there for my family, which I think is very important. Another table I was seriously sitting on is the risk taking, table. And I think that in my own way nowadays, especially this year, I think this year I've been a bit crazy. Especially this year, I've taken more risk than I'll actually take, because I'll normally calculate everything and look at the worst case scenario, and that would make me, not do anything about my situation at all. But I mean, we only live once, right? And so I mean, yeah, they say you live every day, but I think that it's important that we're young. We take advantage of our youthful years so that when we hit 50, 60, it's not now that we are going to be struggling with things that we should have struggled with when we were younger. We'll be enjoying the seeds that will be benefiting, or be harvesting the seeds that we've sowed when we were much younger. So for me, it just gets me thinking of what are the things that I have to do that, I'm sitting on, because it doesn't get any easier. It seems like you have more responsibilities. Your parents are aging, your kids are growing, and all that. So what are the things that I can do now so that when I become a bit older and I have more responsibility, I can have more freedom in terms of time, I can have more resources so that I have more options. So for me, that is what I've picked up from this. I was getting scared about the whole 40 thing because I'm getting closer. I mean, I just hit 30, and the next time you realize you have a few years more to be 40. And just like David said, I think I haven't even come to terms with 30. Then we are approaching 40. But as I said, I think that every day I'm learning to take advantage of every day and stop procrastinating. If I need to read. If I need to develop myself, take advantage of opportunities rather than waiting for the opportune time. So thank you so much, gentlemen. We've learned so much from you.
Very good lessons you've learned. The foundation is very important. So I see some very young, fresh graduates in the room. So keep that in mind as you are starting life in your 20s. And for those of us who are continuing the 20s, and then those in the 30s, and maybe who is afraid to keep going to the 40s, we'll all keep this in mind. Thank you, gentlemen, again for spending your time. And for Paa Nii, who is in Ghana, we can now release you back to your family, the boys. And then for David, continue grinding at work and make that paper. And then when you're done, go and play with your babies. To the rest of us, I really appreciate you spending your time listening to us, joining in on the conversations. Very good questions asked. And I'm looking forward to next week's conversation, 50s. Now, that's the time when a lot of us have been thought about. So yeah, until Thursday, Do check us out on YouTube. If you've missed any of the sessions, a good place to catch up on is YouTube and also on our podcast. So just search for Money Convos where you listen to your podcasts. Apple, if you don't find it on Apple, just try in a few days. We'll be publishing soon. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And if you're not following Money Convos on Clubhouse, please do. And let's continue to have these kind of conversations. Tell someone about it so that when you tell people, it's not just about you, your friends, your circle of friends, in the quality in there improves. Oh, shout outs to Amelie in the audience. I haven't heard your voice in a bit, so hopefully in next week or another session, we'll hear from you too and Blood too. Thank you so much again for spending time with us, and enjoy your weekend as it's coming up. Do take care. Bye.
Good night.
Bye. And thank you, Paa Nii, for
Good
joining
night,
us.
and thanks.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to us. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convo so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.